welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Urvi. I live in New York City and I got a master's in fashion marketing from LIM College. I did a couple of videos about LIM College and my graduate school experience there a couple of months ago, and a lot of you found them so helpful, and a lot of you also reached out to me on Instagram with additional questions. A common question I found was asking me about my internships while I was at college, what exactly you have to do as a fashion marketing intern. So I thought this video would be super helpful. I will be giving you guys a pretty detailed explanation of my duties at all of my internships while I was at LIM and what exactly I did and learned from them. I will also be covering how exactly I got those internships. I will also give you a couple of helpful tips about getting internships and how to make the most out of your internships towards the very end. So make sure you stick around for that. I started my master's degree at LIM in August of 2017, and my first internship, which was at Town & Country, which is part of Hearst Magazines, was in fall 2017. As you can imagine, I was pretty new. First off, in New York City, I knew nothing about this city. I was still getting lost on the subway, still do, but much more often then. And I was also pretty new in the fashion industry. Very much went into this magazine internship thinking it's going to be like the Devil Wears Prada movie, which I was so wrong about, and I will tell you why. But a little bit about my actual internship first. So LIM had this career website where they listed fashion internships and fashion jobs that you could apply to, and that's where I found the listing for an advertising intern at Town & Country. I emailed them, sent them my resume, and I also made sure my career advisor also put in a good word on my behalf. I got an interview call. I went through, I think, 2 rounds of interviews, and I got that internship. It was an unpaid internship, which I think should be a crime, by the way, but at the time it was very, very difficult to get paid internships. I don't know if that's still the case right now, but my internship was for college credit only, and so I got 1 credit for this internship, which also, by the way, I had to pay for, which is insane to me. I initially joined the internship as an ads intern, and I had to go in 2 days a week, 9 to 5. It was in Midtown Manhattan in this swanky building, which is called the Hearst Tower. And of course, I was very, very new to all this, and I was very, very mesmerized, as a lot of people are, because fashion jobs are sometimes really romanticized and people don't really get into the actual nitty-gritties of them. But I kind of want to tell you guys what it really is like. Let me tell you guys a little bit about my job description as an advertising intern. So I basically had to work with the ads and the marketing assistants and assist them with whatever they needed in their day-to-day responsibilities to help keep the magazine running smoothly, which basically was a glorified description of being a floater and doing whatever people need me to do. Every print magazine basically sells ad space on the magazine to brands so that they can get the brands in front of their readers. So as Town & Country is a very respectable luxury magazine, they had very big brands like David Yurman, Neil Lane. They had all these luxury fashion brands like Louis Vuitton, all of those brands advertising with them. So throughout the year, which is divided into 4 quarters, there comes a time when there are media days where the magazine actually pitches to the brands as to why they should be advertising in their magazine and how they can benefit from the readership of the magazine. I helped a lot with the RFPs, which are requests for proposals, which is basically what the sales representatives use to pitch to brands. In simple terms, it's just a document talking about, this is our idea, this is why you should advertise in our magazine, and this is what you can get out of this advertisement, because brands pay big money to advertise in magazines like Town & Country. That's how magazines make their profits, with those advertising dollars, and that's how they're able to bring to you the other content that you read on there. And so as the advertising intern, I helped with a lot of the RFPs itself. I used to proofread a lot of them. I used to contribute small ideas. Another big thing that I used to do was to look at press and industry trends in the luxury marketing space. So say we were researching Chanel and we wanted to pitch to them, I used to sit down and look at news about Chanel or Chanel in the press going back 6 months to a year, compile all of those news clippings, put in a summary with pictures and things like that. So when the ads assistants or the sales rep read them, they kind of got a gist of what was going on with the brand. One on just industry trends and what was going on in the publishing space, in the marketing space, in the luxury space, and another one was brand specific as and when they needed me to do those. One RFP idea that I gave, which the sales rep actually really liked and ended up using at one of the actual pitches, was that at the time we wanted to pitch to David Yurman, and we were around Father's Day time, and I suggested or pitched an idea where we would work on the generations concept, where a father was passing over his David Yurman watch to his son. Other than that, the magazines and brands also collaborated on a lot of like actual events. So another part of my job was actually creating face sheets for this. Face sheets are basically literally what they sound like. You put in people who are attending on an Excel sheet and you put their picture next to it, and you put like a brief like description of who they are, what they do. These are used by the editor of the magazine to kind of go through before a fashion event, so she knows who she's meeting, and she has like talking points so she could pitch them, or she could talk to them about new ideas, or get some readership for the magazine, get some sponsorships, things like that. Another part of my job was to create RSVP lists before we're having events, compiling all of those responses in an Excel sheet, which was my first time ever using an Excel in like a workplace. And it sounds so simple right now, but I remember being really scared to like mess things up. I was also part of an actual brand event where we were at the venue all dressed up, and I was at the door checking the guests in. Another thing that I did, which sounds so simple now, but I actually used to love doing it, was creating edit credit book, which basically means taking an actual magazine, taking the actual Town and Country magazine and tagging with those like colorful stickers where a certain brand got mentioned or credits from the editor. These were just the editor organically mentioning the brand. I would pull a magazine and flip through all of the issues of the magazine, say in the last 6 months, and tag wherever the brand got edit credits. And these edit credit books were then again used by the assistants and the sales reps and the editor themselves to come up with talking points or pitch points. My internship as an advertising intern was also pretty flexible, and so I did tell them that I had an interest in marketing, and so they also made me their marketing intern, which was super nice. I also got to work with the marketing head at the magazine to sit down and kind of do a competitive analysis of the industry, the publishing industry at the time, put together trends. I also saw her actually put together a deck on talking points, readership of the magazine, where she was figuring out the demographic, putting down details about the kind of person that usually reads the Town and Country magazine, highlighting talking points for sales reps on pitch day or media day, which I thought was super cool. And I think that's where my interest in marketing actually sparked. That was also my first stint with seeing data in action, because she was actually analyzing all these data points and coming up with like a theory based on the data points, which is what I do for my job now. This was my first time in the fashion industry. I knew nothing, so whatever I was learning was very, very, very valuable for me. I do want to say I never got coffee for anyone during all of my time there. I did get lunch or donuts one time, I don't really remember. But one thing I didn't really like was that I was doing a lot of the admin work, including printing, going to Staples to buy like printing supplies and things like that, because being at a magazine, you're always printing stuff. You're ordering and maintaining supplies in like the print room, also doing a lot of like packaging and sending boxes and messengers, which was not my most favorite part of the job. But you know what, when you're an intern, you have to do all of that no matter where you are. So I was just really positive and very much like willing to do whatever they needed me to do, which everyone has always liked about me at all of the jobs that I've had. Since this internship at Town and Country was for credit, I did have to write a whole paper on my internships, including giving a company description, history, background, statistics of the magazine, the readership, who the demographic was, what exactly my duties there were, what my objectives were, or what I wanted to get from this internship, and at the end of the internship, whether or not I managed to fulfill my expectations or my objectives, or at least do like 70 to 80% of them. The second internship I had was around summer 2018, and this was at Authentic Brands Group, which is a brand management company. But my internship there was as a PR intern, and specifically celebrity, entertainment, and corporate PR intern, which basically means I used to work with the PR director on just our celebrity and competitor brands, along with PR about Authentic Brands Group itself. That's why it was called corporate PR. Out of all of my internships, I think I got the most value out of this one because the PR director there was amazing, and she was so willing to like let us actually do the work and learn on the job than just doing like the admin work. This internship was also unpaid, but I had to go in 4 days a week, 9 to 5, so it was like a real job. I felt like I was really contributing to something, and I also was going in literally 4 days a week. Some of the brands that I worked on as the PR intern there were Marilyn Monroe, Shaquille O'Neal, Talia, Neil Lane. I was in charge of 3 out of like 12 brands because there were other interns too. Every morning I would go in and I would create this like news update email for the whole company and the team, which was basically like doing my research about the brands that I was in charge of and looking to see if they had been covered by the press, looking to see if their competitor brands were being covered by press, what they were doing, what kind of like marketing campaigns they had, and generally just what was going on in the industry. So that was a daily news update that I spent like an hour every morning putting together because it was really sent to the entire company, so it had to be really valuable and really good. A public relations department's job is actually to create buzz about the brand that they're managing. So since we manage these celebrity brands, our job was to get them covered in press, get their new product launches out in the open, get them covered in the media and things like that. So to do this, there were actually steps we had to go through. The first step, and this is something I did, was building out media lists. So Neil Lane, which is the brand that provides the jewelry for The Bachelor, was actually one of the brands that we managed. Which magazine editor could we send our press releases to or new launches to? So they'd want to feature Neil Lane. These media lists were literally me going on LinkedIn and seeing who worked where and putting together a list of how many people we could get in touch with, seeing if I could find any of their phone numbers or emails so we could contact them. So it was basically a lot of like looking around for contacts we could reach out to for coverage. Another part of that was doing these press releases itself. So writing these press releases, it would essentially be like a one-page article on what Neil Lane has been doing as a brand, what the new launch is about, and why it's interesting or why it's exciting. And these press releases were then sent to the media list to see if anyone wanted to cover them. On the corporate side of things, I also wrote these articles or press releases about Authentic Brands Group as a brand management company itself, which some of them are still on their website. So at the magazine, my internship was actually to get brands to advertise with us, and at the PR firm, it was about pitching to magazines and other media and news publications to see where our brands could get coverage. So it was kind of fun being on like both sides of the industry. I had to print our press releases, our media kits, which I was also part of like compiling. And when we had like new brand launches or new product launches for the brands that we were managing, we would have these events where we would invite people from outside, people from news publications, influencers and others to come into the office, where we created like an installation of the actual collection, or we had like models featuring some of our collections. So people would come in from outside and they would learn about the collection, and then maybe they'd write about them, maybe they wouldn't, but that was totally up to them. So helping with the setup, the guest list for those events, checking people in, managing influencer gifting. So I think one exciting thing was actually being able to go inside the PR closet and being able to like see the samples and pick out gifts to send to influencers and see all the merchandise. I also spent like a couple of days at my internship organizing the PR closet. A huge part of my PR internship was also using PR tools like Cision, Fashion GPS to pull together press releases, information that we wanted to include in our press releases, seeing past coverage for the brand. Since PR is a lot of writing, grammar, and so a lot of the internship was also learning how to form the right kind of sentence structure, how to write professionally, how to perfect like corporate grammar and things like that. So I think this internship was super valuable, not because I really enjoyed public relations, but because I got to learn what I did not want to do. And that's not negative. It's like there's so many areas in fashion and there's so many things that you can do, and it can be hard to figure out what exactly you want to do when you graduate if you haven't even had any experience working in the different fields. How would you know what you like and what you don't like doing? It kind of, you know, solidified my goal to be in the marketing, and so that's why I consider this internship very, very valuable. I also met Haley, who was a PR director, who I consider to be like a mentor to me, and I can reach out to her basically anytime. And I think I made some really great connections there. I forgot to mention how I got this internship. It was actually through a friend of mine who was in the same class that I was, and she had an internship with ABG in the fall, and I told her that I was looking to do an internship, and she actually put me in touch with Haley, who was recruiting for interns at the time. So this one I got through networking, like I did most of my other internships or opportunities at LIM, and I keep stressing the importance of networking in all of my videos because it's literally opened like so many doors for me. So those were my 2 big internships at LIM. I also had a couple of smaller experiences. During Fashion Week, which happens twice a year, LIM has a lot of brands reaching out to them for fashion volunteers. You don't really get paid, but being in fashion, it's pretty cool to be able to go to these shows as volunteers. You get to actually be in Fashion Week, be part of Fashion Week. I wouldn't call it an internship because it would just be like a one-day thing. I was once volunteering for this Tommy Hilfiger show, and I saw Bella Hadid there, and I also saw like Justin Bieber, LeBron James, and a lot of other famous people. So whatever fashion school you're at, they always have these fashion volunteer opportunities come up. The job actually is very just doing menial tasks. My job was literally to like stick numbers onto the benches where people would sit so they knew where their seat was. The other time my job was to arrange like the chairs for the fashion show. But I do know some of my friends who were also fashion volunteers, and they got to work backstage, help the models dress. One last internship that I want to talk about, and this was like over a longer duration of time, but during Fashion Week, was the venue assistant internship. So IMG, as in IMG Models, they have this company that contracts student volunteers or fashion students as volunteers during Fashion Week, which is like a 7 to sometimes a 15-day thing based on how many shows are happening and where basically you interview to become a venue assistant, and then they send you like the dates of the shows, and you can volunteer which shows you want to work at and how many days you want to work. Every VA slot is about 6 to 7 hours, which is insane. Sometimes call times are 7 a.m. in the morning, but you get to tell them what time slots and what days you're available on, and these internships are actually paid. I was a VA for 2 seasons of Fashion Week, and that's where I got to be at the coolest shows, but there was also a lot of like manual work, such as putting up chairs, lifting heavy benches, literally working from like 7 to 3 p.m. sometimes without even having like a break to like eat. Overall, it was still really, really cool. I would not trade that experience for anything. And so yeah, that was all of my internships or experiences that I've had at my time at LIM. Just want to give you guys a couple of tips before I close up this video. Number 1 is to always network. You never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. It can come from your professors, the people you are in school with, or some completely random person you met at, say, like a seminar or a workshop. And network effectively. Make sure that you're making an impression and not just giving the run-of-the-mill elevator pitch to everyone you meet. And it's also good to save everyone's contacts. I used to have a dedicated storage space for all of the people that I met, their business cards, and I also made a note at the back if there was anything specific I'd spoken to them about I wanted to remember for a future conversation. Tip number 2 is take as many internships as you can, because my internships helped me figure out what I wanted to do. Fashion has so many different areas you can work in, and you don't want to like start your career, work in a certain area for 2 years and then realize that that's not what you want to do. So it's really good to have those experimental internships early on before you commit to doing that as a full-time position. Tip number 3, which is my last tip, is to be very vocal during your internships. Sometimes, and this is unfortunate, but sometimes interns are taken advantage of, and a lot of the people that I meet tell me that their internship was basically them printing stuff all the time and shipping things all the time, and they really didn't get to learn anything. At some points, I also saw my internship at Town & Country going in that direction, but I was pretty vocal in expressing that to my managers, not being like rude, but genuinely trying to make them understand that these are my objectives, and while I don't mind doing a little bit of printing and shipping, I also would want to dedicate time to actually meeting my expectations from the internship, because it is also for college credit. And that's like a good way to put it. For me, when I expressed interest in marketing, they were totally open to it. They were like, we totally get it. Maybe let's take some of your time off of restocking and shipping and printing, and dedicate that time to having you sit down with the marketing head or the marketing coordinator to learn what their job is and what they actually do, to see if that interests you. And that was all I had for you guys today. As always, I hope that this was helpful or useful for you. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. I answer every single comment, I answer every single DM, so don't hesitate to reach out to me if there's anything, and I will see you guys in my next video.